Okay, today what I wanted to do is just kind of give you an overview of what needs to go into your PowerPoint presentation on your slides. This is the last assignment for this class. I would very much like it if everybody participated on the team participated in producing this PowerPoint. Can't control that, but I would very much. I think it's a good idea, and I'm going to go over just some purposes of design reviews. Naturally, if we were in class, we would be doing this and presenting to everybody, and you could talk about your design, but we live in a different time right now. So this last assignment, I'll tell you at the end what to do with it and stuff like that, but let's kind of go through what's in a design review and what the purpose of design reviews is. Okay, this is a slide that just talks about what a design review is. A design review is an appropriate venue to present your ideas or your design to a group of stakeholders. There's less ideas and more design. So I've specified this system, created a requirements document, and now I've marched through. And if I were doing this in industry, I would have marched through and met every single requirement. And the purpose of the design review would show the choices I made in order to meet those requirements, display decision matrices that show that I've thought about different approaches and trade-offs, and then it would open up to questions. Now, that is why it is an appropriate venue to prove that you have made a series of good design choices. And so, in general, you want to look as technically competent as you are. And this is sometimes difficult for us. We don't really generally like standing up and talking in front of people, but if we can show that we're competent, that we're technically competent, that we've thought of the options, that we understand the trade-offs, all those kind of things, this is an appropriate venue to do that. And then the third thing here is to get more eyes on the design. A lot of times as designers we may become blind, have certain blind spots in our knowledge of what we're doing, and people who see it will say, well, did you think about this? And you can add that, and part of design reviews is to go back and make changes, fix things that people notice that you didn't see. Design reviews, I've described this in past classes as being kind of like taking something that you've worked on for months that you really like. It's kind of like, and then putting it in a room full of people who are going to say critical things about it. And it's kind of like having your baby up there and they're saying that baby is ugly and I don't like the word. And so you're going to get feedback in design reviews that's both comfortable and uncomfortable feedback. They may say that's a great idea, it really works, you're going to get a patent out of that or something like that. But there is also uncomfortable things, things that you didn't think about, things that are simply wrong, that sort of thing. So we have to be prepared in a design review to withstand both of those. And as you do your senior design projects, you will get to do a design review in there, and it will be in front of people, and so you'll understand this a little bit more. So it's not something to fear, but it is something to prepare for. It's something to recognizing that you're technically competent, and proving that you're technically competent is the primary goal. The one thing that happens in a design review, if you're not technically proving you're technically competent, is you start what I call the feeding frenzy, and somebody in some old silverback engineer in the group will take a look at something you've done and go, you can't do that, and that makes for a bad day, or at least a bad afternoon. And so be aware that that you want to be prepared. Don't be afraid, but be prepared. Okay, so there are also some things that a design review isn't, and so it's not an appropriate venue to sell your project. This is not the job. This is not used car salesman time at all. You've already sold this project. You wouldn't have specified it and you wouldn't have designed it if it wasn't sold. They've already bought into the project. They just want to know whether you can do it and how you're going to do it. And it's also not a venue to go in and have your with the plan of having your design completed by a large committee. So you don't go in with a half design or 10th design project and hope that you're going to get the other 9/10ths by the end of the meeting. It's a bad approach, and in general it doesn't show technical competence, which is what you're shooting for in all of this. It's also not an appropriate venue to cast doubt on your technical competence. You need to be confident, you need to know what you're doing, and as you go into a design review, be ready to explain that you know what you're doing. There's a lot of people who say that if you can't explain something, simply you don't understand it. And I'm a real believer in this, because if it's so complicated that you don't even understand it and you can't explain it simply, then you've got some work to do. You've got to figure out how to explain it. You've got to figure out how to understand it yourself. Okay, so what's in your presentation? Your presentation naturally doesn't involve the interaction of a design review, the back and forth, discussion of points that you've made, your approaches, those sort of things. But what we're going to do is you're going to hand me in a PowerPoint presentation, and I'll tell you where to put it in a little bit. A title slide with the name of the project, the name of the team, and the names of all the team members on the title slide. This helps me when I'm going through them to understand who I'm dealing with, that kind of thing. Presentation overview slide, just saying what's in the presentation and what order it's going to be in. System diagram, however you chose to diagram your system. This will be the third slide in. And then 3 decision matrices. Okay, this gives you a chance to, as I mentioned when we were doing the decision matrices assignment, to take those decision matrices. You picked out critical requirements, and this should be 3 critical requirements, by the way. And so show me how you made the choices, how you selected the categories, all those kind of things. Those are kind of important. And then you need a conclusion slide. And what that gives us is 7 slides. Okay, and then that ought to do it. If you want to include additional things, you can do that. That's fine, but you don't have to go beyond 7. Okay, so there's 3 slides here, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 3 is 7. So 7 slides ought to do it. Now, you may notice if you've already done this presentation, you just have to assemble it. Now, this is not at all unusual in a design review, that your documentation is just an assembly. It's not or your design review is just an assembly of your documentation. And so if you've been doing and keeping up in the class with all of the documentation that I've asked you to put on your team homepage on Canvas, you just have to take the pieces out, put them in a PowerPoint presentation, and you're done. Okay, so this in academia is called self-plagiarism. In industry, it's called SMART. Okay, and the reason you do this is because you're going to be documenting a project as you're designing it. You're going to be making the decision matrices. You're going to be making those decisions. It's already there. There's no sense in reinventing it to do the design review presentation. Okay, one more slide and then we're done. Okay, what do you do with your presentation? Okay, you want to post it under the Files section on your team homepage on Canvas. Okay, so the same place you've been putting files all semester long. And you're done. Okay, so I will go over these and take a look at them. If I've got any critical questions, which I usually don't on these, it's a pretty simple format. The one you'll do for your senior design is a little more complicated and much more detailed, but this is just to give you a taste of what it's like. Okay, with that, stay safe and have a good summer, and hopefully you're doing internships and those are still going off or something like that. But anyway, I will say goodbye for now.